everyone, this is Debbie from Project 39 Mini Albums. This is the first tutorial on how I made the Midnight Potions mini album. I made it a little differently. I made the pages and then I added them to the book. Usually my tutorials will start with making the cover. I do not have a separate cut list, but everything I do mention how to cut step by step. So grab a pen and a paper and your supplies and let's get crafting. Alright, we're going to start with the base pages. You will need 5 sheets of black artisan cardstock, and I'm using the 8.5 by 11 for most of it. I've got some 12 by 12 I'll use later on. But 5 of 8.25 by 8.25 and 5 8.25 by 9. I'm going to move the 8.25 by 8.25 aside and take the 8.25 by 8.25 by 9.25. So we're going to put the long side at the top, so put the 9.25 side at the top, and you're going to score at 1/2 inch and at 8 3/4, and do that to all 5 of those larger pieces. I'm just constructing a simple base page, and then we're going to add all the components to that. Now, there are some times that I will use a 12 by 12 piece and make a flap or a pocket and just cut it, cut it into the paper. But in this case, we're just doing simple and easy. And trying to utilize paper so I don't have that many scraps. So that's the plan. That's the plan. Let's see how we do. Now I'm going to do one and we'll do the rest off camera, but we're going to miter the corners. And by that I mean you'll take your scissors, and a lot of times it will find your score line, and just take off a triangle. Now this way I'm going so it doesn't find the score line, but I've gotten pretty practiced at it, so I usually don't mess up. Alright, and then what we're going to do is take my bone folder, and at the score line we're going to burnish on that fold. I am using a Dress My Craft non-stick bone folder and Dress My Craft non-stick I don't know what they call this, scoring tool, stylus, I don't know. But this you have to sharpen every once in a while with just a piece of sandpaper and emery board, just to keep, you don't want a sharp tip, you need sort of a blunt tip to it. So I just sharpen it every once in a while. Alright, I am using the Art Glitter Designer Dries Clear Adhesive. I will call it Art Glitter Glue. It has no glitter in it. It is made by the Art Glitter Institute. Alright, you got options. Right off the bat, we have options. So here's your choice. You can put this fold on the outside. I'm going to turn this way. It might fit better. Nope. Or on the inside. What are the differences? Well, if you put it on the inside, you don't see it, but you're going to cover it with paper anyhow. If you put it on the outside, when you're adding your flaps in, they won't get stuck on this little piece. In either case, if you add enough glue, it's not going to get stuck. So I will add it to the inside, and I'm not going to worry too much about it. These are really big pockets. I'm cleaning my glue. They're really big pockets, so you don't have to have such huge photo mats going inside those pockets. So here, I'm going to make sure I go down to that where we mitered the corner, and that's going to help so the paper won't get hung up when you put it in. And then I'm simply going to make sure that I am equal parallel on the bottom. It's going to be right up against it. I have a little extra space here, so I'm going to pull this. That's the good thing about using a liquid adhesive if you've got some time. But then again, using an adhesive like score tape, it's instantaneous and it's got a good stick. I have gone to using almost everything except for the cover. I generally will use the liquid adhesive. Alright, I'm going to cut these and make more base pages. So I'm going to turn off the camera while I do that, and then I'll show you where we're going from there. Alright, before I go any further, I want to just give you a note about the examples I'm using. This is my happy place. You will see I had made this. This is the prototype, so you'll see some of the pages as we go through. I was making this book, so I decorated as we go. Let me show you, before we go further, what page 1 is going to look like. So we have this, it's got the flap, it's got a pocket in here, or a photo mat. Then that'll open like that, and that'll open like that. So that is what we're going to make for page 1. Okay, so first of all, I number my pages 1 front, 2 back, so it would be 1F, 1B, 2F, 2B, etc. Just so I can keep my pages straight and keep you guys straight. Let me move this aside for right now and show you what we'll need to cut for this one page. You will need one piece of cardstock, 6.5 by 8.25. And then from that same 8.5 by 11 sheet, you can cut one that's 4.5 by 8.25. One that's 8 3/4 by 6. And one that is 7 by 6.5. So let us start scoring. So the 6.5 by 8.25, you're going to put the 6.5 side up at the top and score down that long side. We'll move that aside. The one that is 4.5 by 8.25, you're going to score at 1/2 inch, but I'm putting the short side at the top and I'm scoring at 4. Just so my writing is right side up. It doesn't matter really. The piece that is 7 by 6.5, you're going to score on 3 sides. So put the 7-inch side at the top, score at 1/2 inch, score at 6.5, rotate, and score at 1/2 inch. So the 6.5 inch side is at the top. The 8 3/4 by 6, you're going to put the 8 3/4 side at the top of your scoreboard, and you're going to simply score at 6. Now, in addition to that, I am going to take a corner rounder, and you could use whatever kind of corner treatment you want. In my mind, whenever I have a flap, I like just to have the corner rounded. I don't know why. I do not know why. And then I'm going to fold that down. And you know what? As I tell you these measurements, so what this 7 by 6 is going to do is add a pocket. But if you want the pocket to go to the top of the page, then you can. Let me show you on a page I made with different paper. So I ended up cutting this down a little bit. so you see that there is an item in that pocket. So let's go ahead and cut that down. And I'm sorry, I guess I should change the measurement on there. So the measurement will be, we're just going to cut off 1/2 inch. So instead of 7 by 6.5, oh, this is easy. It's just going to be 7 by 6. How's that? So I will take off 1/2 inch on that, just so, like I said, the pocket will show through. So we're going to miter the corners and put the bottom on our paper before we do anything else. Just the bottom. I made sure it was lined up even with the bottom. And then I'm going to just grab a piece of cellophane tape, and I'm going to put it on the bottom. And the reason I do that is so when you put something in, it doesn't get hung up on the bottom if your paper doesn't go all the way down. And it's a way, if you are going to run out of paper, it's sort of a way to conserve paper. And I'm going to go ahead and glue these other 2 flaps. And there we go. I'm much happier having a little bit of this showing so you can put your whatever's in your pocket go up to the top of the page. So thank you for bearing along with me. Now we're going to just put this aside, and I'm going to miter the corners of our other 2 pieces, the 6.5 by 8.25 and the 4.5 by 8.25. Whoopsie. I dropped my bone folder in the trash. That's not good. Alright, and I'm going to grab my base page. Now let's fold and burnish on our score lines. And I'm going to put one on the right and one on the left. I will put the 6.5 by 8.25 on the left side. So I'll add glue and make sure it is lined up to the edge of the paper and lined up with the bottom of the page and the top of the page. I'll burnish again on that score line and burnish over where we put the glue. And do the same with this. Making sure it's even. Oops, when I burnished it, it moved. Get back there. There we go. Oh. This artisan cardstock cuts like butter. I just love it. Alright, so what's going to happen is this pocket is going to be glued onto the flap on the right side, and there will be a magnet on the left side. I'm going to add the one magnet now, but then throughout this tutorial I'm just going to say add a magnet. We might make a notation. So let me grab my basic gray medium size magnets, magnetic discs, and show you how to add that. Okay. Before we put this on and glue it, we're going to cover this with the patterned paper. But what I did is I eyeballed it and just drew a line on the top corner and the bottom corner so I know that's where it's going to go. I'm going to turn this over and I'm going to place a magnet. So what I have is I have the positive and the negative. We'll let them kiss. So there's positive, there's negative. So I'm going to peel off the backing and put that about 1/2 inch in on the right hand side, even though it's going to go on the left hand side on the back. Then I'm going to peel off the backing of the negative one. Going to figure out exactly where I wanted it to go and push down. So now I've got one here, one there, and when I am ready to glue this on, it's already on that pattern paper. If you want to make sure nothing happens to it, you can add a little bit of tape on top of the magnets. Alright, let's go ahead and decorate this. Alright, before I get into the decorating, I'm going to show you how I colored the bottles. Now I'm using alcohol markers. They're inexpensive ones. I've just picked them up a couple of different places. So I'm taking a light gray. You could use your blender if you have one. My blender is out of oomph, so you can see it doesn't have a lot of color to it. And I'm coloring in around the outside of the bottle, I don't know, about 1/4 inch. Now I'm going to take a purple, but it's a purplish gray, and I'm going to, let me try to focus this. Okay, and then I'm just going to go take that and go around the outside about half of the width of what we did with the light gray. I'll do some more on the bottom. And then I'm going to just do a little bit underneath that top. I'm going to take the light gray and go over again that purple, and that'll help it blend. I think I'll do the top. So I'm just going to wet the whole top portion and take some of this purple and go around the edge, and I'll just do some at the bottom, and I'll do the top of the top. And I'll do the light gray again. Oops, wrong side. That'll help it blend. We'll let that dry while we work on this one. So this one I'm going to use a different purple. This purple is called Deep Violet. Start with my gray. And I'm going to do down here and the sides too, and underneath that lip. Now don't forget, the blender or the light gray in this case will help spread the color. So again, I'm just going on the sides. This is a much deeper purple. So I'm going to go on the sides. I'm using the fine tip now. I'm just going to go underneath there just a little bit. There's a line there. underneath the lid and then inside. And we'll use the light gray again. Just to let that purple spread. And that way you get, instead of a fine line, it's more of a subdued different tones to that purple. Okay, now that'll still blend. See, that is drying. But while I'm waiting for the edges to dry, I'm going to take the fine point of my gray. And I'm going around the skull and crossbones. I'm going to try to get a little more definition to that. So I'm going to go underneath it because I'm going to have the shadow come under and around the sides. Really subdued, not a blatant. So just a little bit of this purple just around the edge of the skull. And a little bit below the crossbones as if to shadow it. And then I'm going to take my light gray and just go a little bit below. I'm going below and on the area we just colored, and that will help the purple move a little bit. Alright, and that's all I'm going to do for the coloring. It just adds a little bit of purple. Now I'll show you a couple of ones I did. So this one, as you can see, I just took some purple and colored it. I added a little blue to the edge just to shade it. This one, I did that purplish gray in the lines there and then around the top. This one, I colored it with the purplish gray and then used just the darker purple for a shadow. And that one I did the same as this, went around the edge and around the skull and crossbones. And that one I just went around the sides with that purplish gray. And that's all I'm going to do as far as coloring the bottles. You could add glitter, you could emboss them. Oh, you could do so many things with them. Okay, I've got the paper cut out and we're going to put it on, but first I'm going to add a little bit of distressing. Now I've already distressed this with a little bit of the brown, what is the brown I used? Walnut stain. And now I'll go back in with some black soot. Some areas I'll do a little heavier than others. And then I'll also add a little bit of the purple. Not all over, just bits and pieces here. I do want this to be a little more purple than some of the other surrounding areas, so I will. Especially where it says bottles here, because this will be the focal point of the front. But again, not all over, just heavier in some areas, lighter in others. So there is that. I'm going to go ahead and grab my glue and start adhering. Now I already did put magnets on this piece. You'll see that in a second. And I also put tape on top of it. There we go. So here's the glue. Now here, do I want to add color to the bottles? I mean, I could. How about just a little? We'll use some of this purplish gray, and I'll use my gray as well. I'll take the gray and go inside. I'll just color the bottles with the gray. How's that? And I might as well do the top shelf. All right. I'm taking the fine point and just ever so lightly going around the bottle, taking my light gray just to blend it, just to get a little roundness to it. And since I have this in my hand, I'll go ahead and do this figure 8 looking bottle. And then take my gray and blend. Alright, I'm going to re-wet. We'll do this one. With a darker purple. I'm using my fine point and blend. So you're just letting the alcohol sort of wetting the surface with alcohol so it will pull some of the color from the other purple, from the purple we just did, and blend it into the center. And I'll color that one and then add some purple. And then go back in with the gray. And then I'll take this one. And just ever so slightly outline that with the purple. And color it again. Add some of this light gray so it will give it an opportunity to blend. And that's all I'm going to do for now. Make sure you put the caps back on real tight. And then I will go ahead and glue this down. You do see some of the colors coming through. It's still a little wet. By the time it dries, but it doesn't matter because we won't see anything on that side. All right. All right, and then I have this for the inside. Yep, put that on. Right there. So this is inside the little envelope. And I'll put that in. There we go. So there is the front. Now this is the back side. You only need half of this covered because the other half is going to be glued down. I'll show you what I mean in a little bit. Alright, that is that side, so it goes here. Okay, done with that. Now let's do this. So I was starting to put this together and I made a mistake. I had cut this piece to use it somewhere else, actually to use it on the bottom of here. And you know what? It's not the worst thing in the world, and I'll show you why in just a second. Let me go ahead and ink this side. Now I don't know if you noticed, but a lot of these papers are already inked very nicely. Oh, and another thing is the purple I'm using is Wilted Violet. I believe Villainous Potion would be fabulous, but I don't have any. So, you know, any deep purple would be fine. This is a lighter purple than I would want, but that's why I'm adding it to the black. And it works. Alright, so this will go here. Making sure I'm getting it on nice and even. Okay, that's how that will go. Alright, we're moving on to the inside. And I've already inked everything, so I'm going to move that out of the way. And I don't know if I've told you, but I put on a little bit of ATG just so I know where all of the pieces are going to go. So it comes off very easily. And your best bet is to twist it off. Don't just pull it up. I'll show you what I mean in a second. Let me put this down. There. So like this, just twist it off. It comes off. Some of the areas on this bottles page are plain. So you can grab that. And it gives you just a nice place, you know, just away from the busyness of the rest of the paper. And then this purple is Purple Vine. And I did use black soot on it. This was one of the little stamps, and I put it on Doodlebug's Black Beetle. It's a glitter paper. I just have a very small border on it. I didn't want it to be overpowering. And I'm going to put that over to the side. And I'm just adding glue to the bottom so you can use that as a tuck spot. So there's that. All right, let's move this out of the way. What do I have up here? I have to think about that. Okay, here's the piece I had up at the top. It's just one of those corner pieces. And then here's my purple vine. And then just a part of the bottles page. Okay, let's move this aside. And that's ink, but we'll ink it a little more. I'm not using as much purple on the inside. I just wanted that to be on the cover. I mean, you've got purple with the little, these are about half-inch pieces. All right, put that on the side. Okay, this will go on the side. Make sure you don't put it too close to where the other piece will close. Now this, of course, was one taken from the edge of the page. And then here I took my glitter paper and put the purple vine in the center of it. And that will go in between those two. And there's that page. Now, I do have a spot for a photo here. This is a 5x7 piece with a 4 1/4 by 6 1/4 inch of the purple. That will go there. Oops. I cut that very big. I'm going to cut this down. Alright, this is just another piece. And then this purple one, you can tell I inked it pretty well. I mean, there's the grapevine. Did I say purple vine? Grapevine. That makes sense. We'll take that off because we can. And I'll put this one back on. And so this can go anywhere on the page you want. You want to center it. I'm going to put it at the top. You could turn it this way. that way, and you can do that even though we've got that on there. Just use that and cover it. Do we want to cover up that skull and crossbones? We can, because we've got them here, here, and here. So if you covered this one, I mean, that would be centered. I don't know that I want to do that. But again, I'm going to leave him peeking out a little bit. Oh, but if I put this centered on the page, you know what? There's room for, can put a tag in it if we wanted to. I put glue on 3 sides. Don't know if I will use it as a tag, a place to put a tag, a tuck spot, but we may. Okay, we've got that. And we've got a couple of different things. So I've got these 2 tags, and I've got some of the bottles. So I think I will take some of the bottles and put here. Okay, so here's how I put the bottles. I put the Tamanarculus one to the left, then this one that I mostly colored purple in the middle, and then this diamond shaped one, and then I put the skull and crossbones in front of those 2, and I put the rounder skull and crossbones to the far right. I added this tag for carbolic acid, and then put this jar in that bottle. Now you could put tags there, but what I thought I'd do is leave that so you can put your photo on there, and we're going to put our tags in here. Maybe this one first and then the poison. So now this will close and that will close. And we've got the magnet here and here. So we're going to let it find its spot. And then I see I need to go from the edge of that drawer on down. So we'll add glue here. Gonna let it find its spot. And then push this down. Make sure it's straight. And I'll hold that in place in just a second, but first I'm going to take this tag. See how much purple I added to it? I'm going to put it on a black background, just a scrap. And then that's going to go here. Most of it's going to be hidden, so I don't really need to do anything for the bottom there. But there we go with that. I'm going to put something heavy on it and let it dry, and then I will figure out what I'm going to put inside the pocket. But that page is done. Alrighty, let us work on 1B, which is the back of page 1. You will need a piece of cardstock 8.5 by 8.25. You will need a piece 5.5 by 4, 2 pieces 5 by 6. Let us start with the 8.5 by 8.25. with the longer side at the top, so the 8.5 side at the top, score 1/2 inch. The 5.5 by 4, you're going to score on the 2 short sides and 1 long side at 1/2 inch. So score, rotate, score, rotate, score. And these 5 by 6s, you will score on the 2 long sides and 1 short side. So I'll start with the short side at the top, score at 1/2, rotate, score at 1/2, rotate, score at 1/2, and the same with the other one. Long side, score at 1/2, rotate, whoops, score at 1/2, rotate, score at 1/2. All right, now we're gonna burnish on those fold lines and miter the corners, not necessarily in that order. Get my scissors. Okay, I'm gonna let my scissors fall into that channel and trim, go right across the X made by our score line and go up that way. Why do we miter the corners? So you don't see them as much, and then when they make a pocket, sort of to help your paper not get caught or hung up right at the opening. I have made many albums where I just don't miter the corners, and the only thing is, if your paper is not perfectly straight, sometimes you see it. So it's always best to miter, especially if your paper is not straight. All right, let's start with our larger piece. We're going to fold and burnish on that score line, and we'll do the rest for all 3 pieces. I'm looking in my camera realizing, boy, my mat has gotten very, very dirty. I guess I need to cover it with something, because I hate to buy a new one. I mean, they're self-healing. They really should last forever if it wasn't for the fact that they get dirty because they get used. There's glue, there's paint, there's lots more glue, and a little bit more paint. Okay, so we have those 2, that one, and this one. Let us take the large one first. I'm not sure what that is. And that is going to go at the top, and it will be like that. So I will add some glue. Make sure the sides are even. Now, it doesn't go all the way to the bottom of the paper, and I did that on purpose. I want you to be able to see. I did not make that very straight, so I'm straightening it out. I want you to be able to see that that is a photo mat. Okay. We will take these and do I want it this way or the other? You could do either. I guess I'll just do it this way just for simplicity's sake. So these are going to be 2 tag pockets. And so when we're putting it on the paper, put it all the way to the top, but don't glue this part yet. Just glue the sides. And the reason we're going to do that is because we want to put the paper underneath. And make sure they're going to be right next to each other. And burnish. All right. I don't know why I keep getting glue on things. Okay, so there's that. And then for this, so we're simply going to add a pocket to the bottom, but again, I don't want to add it until we've gotten our decorative paper on. I am taking my ATG, putting a little bit on the bottom, and putting it in place like that. All right, now I'm going to cut the paper to decorate it, and we'll decorate it together. Okay, to decorate, what we're going to do is grab, I have an 8 by 8. Actually, I cut it down a little bit. It's a little bit less than 8 by... Did I cut it down? Doesn't look like I did, but I did. I cut down maybe 1/8 of an inch. And I like this here because there's this, I don't know if you can see it, but it's a skeleton in with the paper. But anyhow, that's going to go like that. Now let me grab a 12 by 12 and show you how I cut it. So first of all, I cut across here for these two pieces. Now this one, if you look carefully, the writing's upside down. But unless I pointed it out, you wouldn't know. And if I put a circle here, nobody would notice. And I love the colors of that. So cut that out. About 3 3/4 across. And then you can cut out these pieces, which would be 5 4/8. No, 5 3/8 across. So then that will be for that. And then you have other paper left over. So you've got this piece. So that's above that. And I cut a little bit off. I cut about 1/4 inch off of the side because I wanted the full term medical admonisher to be there. So I cut that by 8 by 8. Silly me, of course, because that page is 8 1/4 by 8 1/4. So there's that. And then you have this piece left over from this side. And all you have to do is cut that down a little bit to fit on this pocket. So let me cut this. So I need to cut it 4 1/4 by 3 3/8. And I like this little design on the top, so I'm going to make sure that stays. Alright, 4 1/4, 3 3/8. I'm going to just ink up the edges because I don't want the white core of the paper to show everything so nice and dark and gruesome. And I want to keep it that way. Oops, would help if I took that off first. Alright, I'm going to glue this down so I don't forget what I'm doing. Don't you love this purple on this paper? I just think it's fabulous. Okay. And then this can go on here. This is beautiful all by itself. If I was going to use that for the cover, I think I would put it on some gold or add gold leafing onto the page. I'm not exactly sure what I would do, but that is beautiful. All right, I'm going to center this on the page. And then I can add the pocket. So I want to put it above here, but off to a side, and I'll let that show. So I am going to add some adhesive to the bottom, sort of center it over, put it over admonisher. I still want room for a tag up at the top, so I don't want to put it too far to the bottom. All right, and I'm going to grab a piece of tape and put it here, just so if you were to put something in the pocket, it would not get hung up. Not that it would really, but still. We can do it while we're there. Why not? So what I do when I'm putting pockets down, put it down, you burnish, but then you hold on the top corner and pinch it in a little, just a little. And that helps raise this up so it's easier to put tags and things in. So just a little bit. All right, and then we'll decorate that. But I mean, it's a beautiful presentation. Why mess with it? All right, so now all right, we're done with that. I saved one of the 8x8s for the cover using that. Let me move this out of the way. Okay, so this is a little smaller than 8x8 because remember, it doesn't go all the way to the bottom there. And I don't want it all purple on the top. I mean, I guess I could. We're going to cover most of it up. No, I want a little more interest. So this is what I'm going to do. I am going to cut at 5.5. I know, it's a beautiful paper. Hate to cut it. And do I want that one or this one? Nope, we'll go this one. We want more purple here than anything else. So I'm just going to ink the edges. I've already inked around it a little bit, but just so that white core doesn't show. And then I will glue this on. And burnish. All right, I cut this piece of the black glitter cardstock from Doodlebug to 3/4 of an inch by 7 3/4, about just same size as this. Whoops. And then this is this side of the paper, but I want the light side to show. So we're going to cut it down. You want to have a gap between this paper and the glitter and the glitter and this and the end of the page. So I guess I'll cut it down 1 inch and 13/16. Let's just say 1 inch and 5/8. How's that? I made this piece a little bigger than I normally would. 1 inch and 5/8. Let me cut that down before I forget. Because this way the skeleton, the skull, shows. And I'm going to ink it because I want to make it look like the end of the page. You know, all of these are dark around the corners. Gosh, I love that. Isn't that neat? So I was trying not to ink around the skull so it would show. And then just to add a little accent, help it blend in with all the purple, I am adding some purple, sort of heavily purple. I mean, it's still lighter. That's what I wanted, the contrast. And then we'll add adhesive. And put that down. Okay, so now I have a piece of 6.5 by 6.5 cardstock that we're going to put up here. It would be nicer if it was brighter, but you know what, once you put a photo on here, that'll be okay. So I'm not going to worry too much about it. And then I have another piece with this gorgeous, gorgeous paper. And I will ink that one up as well. So by having the pattern here and then one going across, it gives you a focal point and helps your eye go to the photograph. You still could just leave it this way if you wanted and put your photos right on here, and that's okay too. So it's up to you how you want to do this. Although, I don't know, now that I look at it, I'm wondering, should I leave that? I mean, it does look like an interesting page. What do you guys think? And then I could put this somewhere else, because this doesn't give me the pow. Although it sort of blends in everything together. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to wait till I put the tag in the pocket and then decide what I'm going to do. Because otherwise I don't have anywhere that this is going to show in the book. But let's go ahead and put our cardstock on here and get that taken care of. So one was like that. Oh no, I was going to do it this way. That's right. And that was going to be upside down. So we'll ink around the edges. Add a little bit of purple. Alrighty. So before I put this down permanently, I know I've got a little bit of ATG, but I'm going to add a little more and move it up centering it on the page, but having it a little over the edge of there. The reason I'm going to do that is because I don't have, all I have to make a thumb tab is a circle. Oops, that's got to be even on that page. So I'm going to go in. And then I can move this down and it'll show just the slightest thumb notch. So if you put this first piece, because when we're going to have it centered on the paper, so we're going to justify it to the right, still have it centered on that paper top and bottom. There we go. And then I'll take my circle punch, make sure it's centered there, and it'll take off a little bit more of the pattern paper than it will my paper below. So we can go ahead and glue this on. Again, if you have a thumb notch, well, more power to you, because that'll make it so much easier. Isn't this a gorgeous purple? I mean, it's just luxurious. Okay. I like those. Now, of course, we haven't put this down yet. I'm not going to ink up the whole thing, just going to ink up the right-hand side. Love that too. I may have room for it somewhere, but I'm not sure where. All right, that'll go down on here. You really don't need this whole thing. You could just cut it about 4 inches, because this is going to cover it. But I was okay with having it. Now I will glue. You know how I like to put the piece of tape at the bottom? Well, I'm not going to here, but that's okay. Yeah, I know that one popped up. All right, so we've got a lot of stuff on the desk. That's what we've got. We have this here. We'll put a tag in each of those. And then we have that. We're not sure what we're going to do with it. And then we have this, and we're going to put a tag in there. All right, I'm going to go ahead and glue this down on there. I just love that piece with the skull. Sort of muted, but obviously you still can see it. So I will again, I'm just piecing this together, trying to figure out what I like. So I'll go ahead and put this one on this page. I've sped up the video just so it goes a little bit faster. And then here we go with that, and there is that. Now for these tags, what I did is I cut the pieces, and I cut the top decorative paper, and I added it to the very top with some ATG, but it's sitting out about 1/8 of an inch longer than I want it to. And then I cut one side of it, and I took that little piece, glued it on, and cut right on it so it would be the exact same cut. And then I move those decorative papers down, and they fit perfectly. So here I'll do it I took these 3/4 inch pieces of the black glitter cordstock, and then I cut a hole out of it. I glued it down and then cut another hole, took some seam binding and tied it at the top, and there is our tag. Just to make it a little more interesting, I grabbed some of this thin jute that I had and added it. I just wanted to pull in some of that beige color, and I love the look of the little tie on the tag. So that is the end of part 1. If you hit the bell for notifications, you'll be notified when part 2 is ready. Thanks so much for watching. Have a fabulous day.